Hello and welcome to this short video in which I will explain 8 points that I see as the main important points of information on the proposal from the EU Commission to a new Erasmus Plus program, and I will focus specifically on the aspects that are relevant to the sector of sport and specifically to grassroots sports and of course ISCA's own members. So point 1 is the fact that the budget is now proposed to be no less than doubled. It means that there is going to be 550 million euros available for this 7-year period. It means it's a doubling. It's not the 10 times more that there was an alliance advocating for, but as the European Commissioner for Sport, Tibor Navracsics, has said, actually this is the one program that got the highest increase of all in the EU budget. So I think it's a, let's say, satisfying results in terms of the funding available. Second point is that when you read the proposal for an Erasmus Plus regulation, it is continuously focusing on grassroots sports. This has been a development over the development of the sport program of the EU and the sport policy priorities in the EU, where in the beginning was focused a lot on transfer of players and the economic dimension of professional sport. Nowadays the clear political focus is grassroots sports, and it seems to be continuously the case also for the next 7 years starting in 2021. Third point is internationalization. This means that not only EU countries will be able to benefit from the Erasmus Plus program and the Erasmus Plus sport program. Specifically, there will be more opportunities for non-EU program countries to join, and it would seem also from the text that countries beyond the broader European geography, also from Africa, Asia, Latin America, etc., would be able to benefit to a high extent that they already could in the current program. And I think that's a very positive situation generally and specifically for ISCA as a global organization. There is a little but to add to this, namely that in the field of mobilities that I will get back to, it seems to be the case that non-program countries, non-EU countries would not be able to benefit from the programs of mobilities, meaning individual coaches or managers traveling for the sake of development. But that remains to be seen whether that interpretation is right. Fourth point is the continuation of support for what we already know, namely the collaborative partnerships, as well as the not-for-profit European sport events. This funding line is proposed to be continued, and positively so, I would say. The new element being added is that the former 3 components of Erasmus Plus in education and youth, namely mobilities and cooperation projects and policy projects, they were called Key Action 1, 2 and 3, will now also apply to the sector of sport. Positively, this means that there will be mobility actions for coaches and staff in the sector of sport, and therefore, let's say, small projects that involves the exchange of staff, coaches, etc., would be enabled in the new Erasmus Plus sport program. Also, there will be new actions, while they're not specified in details, broader and bigger projects called Partnerships for Innovation, and also projects in the field of policy, dialogue and dialogue with stakeholders would be promoted, and so there are some good opportunities for larger scale and politically influential projects to be implemented as well. So those were the 5th point, mobility actions, and the 6th point, the new actions on partnership for innovation and policy dialogue. And the 7th point then would be that the management of the program will change so that the mobility projects and the small collaborative partnerships that we know of today as well will be managed apparently on a national level by the national agencies. So where EU funding for sport used to be managed only in Brussels, in the future some parts of the program would be managed by national agencies in each of the EU countries, which I think is a very positive development in that it enables ISCA members and other organizations on national level to have a more direct dialogue, understanding and potentially also motivation for applying for these relevant programs. Then, as the final and 8th point, the internationalization that I talked about before has by some been mentioned to also be an opening for the non-EU member states to continue an involvement if they pay accordingly to the Erasmus Plus program, and specifically some has mentioned that this seems to be an opening and an outreach to the UK that apparently would be leaving the EU, and this may be a possibility to negotiate a position for them in the Erasmus Plus program in the future. It has not been underlined by the Commission, it's not been underlined by the Commissioner himself, but some have interpreted this internationalization to also open up for some of the European but non-EU countries to be strongly and continuously involved in Erasmus Plus, which, all things being equal, is very positive, knowing that we have good experience and good past partnerships with organizations from the UK. Those were the main points I wanted to tell you about today. 8 points that would change in the future, 8 points of information for the new Erasmus Plus program. I underline once more, this is a proposal from the European Commission. It still has to be negotiated with the Council and the Parliament, so we don't know that this is the final budget. We don't know that these are the final priorities, but this is a very good starting point, I would say. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed this video.